Today I'm going to teach you one of the secrets to health that you may not realize, and it's really a key. Hi, I'm Dr. Christensen. Welcome to my office. As I've been working with patients for my 30 plus years in practice, I've learned a few things. And one of the things that I learned is that there is more to health than just the physical. We all have talked about the mind-body connection, and that's true and that's valid. But the issue is, how do you get there? How do you heal not only the physical body, but the undercurrent or the underpinning of the mind and the spirit? And one of the things that I've discovered in my practice is that everything is created spiritually before it's manifest or created physically. In the Bible, it talks about God said, "Let there be light," and then there was light. There is a consistent pattern of a spiritual creation prior to the physical manifestation. And I find that's true also in our physical bodies. Before you develop diabetes, before you develop heart disease or any other health condition, it begins in the spirit. It begins in the mind. And so what I've discovered is that the key to a healthy physical body is joy or happiness. And so it's easy to say that. We just need to be happy. And of course, when we're happy, we feel better. But the question is how do you get happy? And one of the things that I've discovered is that the key to happiness or the key to joy is gratitude. Not only feeling gratitude, but expressing gratitude. And that's what I want to touch on a little bit today, is expressing gratitude. Those of you that know me know that I'm a little bit weird. I'm a little bit esoteric at times. And one of the things that I've come across as I was reading a book, the book is entitled A Year of Living Prayerfully, written by a man named Jared Brock. And I found it very, very interesting. He and his wife traveled throughout the world looking at different religions and their practices of prayer. And one of the things that he did, he went to Mount Athos in Greece, which is the Mecca, if you will, of the Greek Orthodox Church. And in the process of his discussion with their religion, he talked about the prayer knots that they tied. And I thought it was very interesting. And what the legend goes is there was a monk, I believe he was in the 3rd century. Any of you that are Greek Orthodox will probably need to correct me. But the gist of it is they have a repeated prayer that they say. And the prayer basically is something like this: "Lord Jesus, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner." And then they would repeat that prayer again and again in a form of meditation, if you will. The story goes, in the 3rd century there was a priest, a monk who was tying knots, and he would tie a knot as he would say the prayer, and as the story goes, Satan would untie that knot, and he would get frustrated because he's trying to keep track of his prayers, and every time he would say a prayer and he would tie a knot, it would get untied again. And so he developed this knot through inspiration that crossed over 7 times, and it's actually more of a weave than a knot. And the devil wasn't able to untie that knot. And so they've developed this knot. And being the nerd that I am, I thought, okay, I'm going to learn how to tie this. And it's kind of tricky, but I think it's really cool. And so what I've done is I've tied these series of prayer knots, and their prayer knots that they do are usually in a series of either 33, 50, or 100 knots as you go through. And what I decided to do is to make these prayer knots and tie them into a ring. And so what I do here, and I can show you a few of them that I finished. I tie 33 knots. 33 represents the living years of Christ when he was in mortality, and then I tie them together with 3 double knots using this Greek Orthodox prayer knot, and the 3 represents the Godhead, if you will, the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. And so I'm going to teach you today how to do this prayer knot and how I make these things, with the idea that as we express gratitude, as we count our blessings, if you will, and we count a blessing and we move to the next knot, express another blessing or something we're grateful for, and move to the next knot. As we go about halfway through, you'll find you're having to start to reach, and you're having to start to think about those. But the point is that the more we can express gratitude, our hearts and our souls will be filled with joy, which in turn will change the physiology of our body. We will secrete more serotonin, more dopamine, less cortisol, and we can actually see a change in the physiology, which will improve your health. And so the key again is health, but we don't want you to just feel better. We want you to be better. And so join with me. I'm going to teach you how to tie this knot, and do with it what you will. In tying these prayer knots, what I use is some satin cord. And one of the things I learned is that satin is not the type of material, but it's the type of weave. And so this is a polyester satin. Can you focus on that? And so what I use is 2 millimeter cord. I just bought this on Amazon, and you can get all kinds of different colors. And so it's kind of fun to have different colors. The kids like colors as do I. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use two opposing colors that will be easy for you to see. I'm going to use a blue and a white. And the length that I'm going to use is about 10 feet. So it's about 120 inches. And what I do is I just stretch it to 2 arms lengths. And that's what I start with, and that's about what I need. And so I start with that. I'll just cut that. As I weave the two ends together, I'm going to need some on the other end. So I begin just by tying an overhand knot right there, and that's my starting point. I'm going to undo this knot once my first knot is tied. And so I take this knot, and I'm going to use my left hand, and I'm going to put the string between my thumb and first finger, and between my second and third finger here. And so in this case, and for teaching purposes, the lighter color is going to be towards the thumb. I take the blue knot, I'm going to wrap it from underneath the thumb over to the top. That's step number 1. Step number 2, I'm going to take the undersurface of that over the top of everything and put it onto the back of my middle finger. Step number 3, I'm going to take the light colored behind the X. You see how that's created an X with the blue cord? I'm going to take it over the top of my thumb, and as I do that, I'm going to push off the blue one that is looped. And in doing that, I create a box. That's what I want, is that box. My next step here, I'm going to be going underneath the blue cord. When you're going around the fingers, you're always going to be going underneath. I'm going to go under the blue cord between fingers 4 and 5, around the 4th and the 3rd finger, come out between 2 and 3, and then I'm going to go over the box, and I'm going to drop it right back in next to the thumb. In doing so, I create a little X. You can see the X between the blue and the white. I'm going to take that whole X, and I'm going to put it over my thumb. My next step is I'm going to take the blue cord between fingers 4 and 5, around those same 2 fingers again. I'm going to be going underneath these 3 cords. There should be 3 cords there. I go underneath, I pull it out through the opening there. So it's underneath the 3 cords, it's laying over the top of these. My last step here is I bring it around in the same position between fingers 4 and 5, around those 2 fingers, and then I'm going to be going over, I'm going to be going under those three things here. So I've got my 2 cords coming out over the top of all of that. The knot is essentially tied at that point. Now I just got to get it off my hands and tighten it up. And so to do so, I go to my thumb, I find the cord that is attached to the end, to the knot. And so I find that cord, I'm going to lift up that cord and pull everything off my thumb, just like that. I'm going to do the same thing with the other. I'm going to find that dark cord. It's almost going to look like a ring around the middle finger. I'm going to lift that up, and then I'm going to pull everything off those other 2 fingers and put that ring back on. There's my knot. I'm going to gently pull that knot to tighten it up. I kind of wiggle it back and forth a little bit, just like that. And there's my knot. I want to cinch it up to this knot that we started with. And so to do so, I gently pull things off. I find the end of the dark one, and I just start pulling that until I'm snug up against the other knot. I'll take the other light one and I snug that up there. And so now I've got 2 big loops, and I've got some strings hanging down from that. And so I'm going to separate the 2 there. And what I do is I grab onto everything except for the blue loop, the dark knot. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cinch things around. So I've got this knot here, the loop here, I want to cinch that tight. And I find the end of it, and I simply pull that through. I'm going to rotate to the other side. I'm going to find the end where I can continue to pull that through, and I tighten that there. The whole time I'm kind of buttoning the knots right up to each other. I rotate it one more time. I'm going to be doing this 3 times. I pinch and I pull that through. And then finally, I find my blue string here, and I'm going to pull that, and that's going to pull that all the way snug. Next, I do the same thing with the white. So I have the white loop that is exposed now, and I find where it crosses through. I'm just going to pinch that. And again, I'm just going to do 3 passes where I just keep pulling the white one through. I find the next one here. I don't know if you can see that very well. And I'm going to pull that through. And then I rotate again. And then I find the knot, and I rotate that through. So I do that 3 times, and then I've got my white cord here. I pull my white cord, and that's nice and snug. And so there's my prayer knot. I don't need this overhand slip knot anymore, so I can just pull that free, and I'm left with this Greek Orthodox prayer knot. You got that? Mm-hmm. And so my next step now, and this will be a little bit easier because I don't have the extra strings hanging from my loop. I put the knots in positions, and I'm going to begin tying my next knot. And so again, as we go through, and as you get the hang of this, once you've done it, probably 100 times. You'll get the hang of it, and it's not going to be quite as overwhelming. When I was learning this, there was a YouTube video with a kid demonstrating it, and I had to watch the video about 20 times before I got it. But there's my knot. I pull it off my hands like such. Sometimes I'll need to straighten that out a little bit. Again, there's my knot, pulling it off the fingers, just cinching it up from time to time. And so the question is when do I do these? Well, when I'm just sitting and there's nothing else that I need to use my hands for. My wife is constantly quilting and doing needlework, and so for me, I guess maybe this is my self-defense. We took a trip, and you know, when I wasn't driving, I sat and I tied some prayer knots. Okay, so once you've tied your 33 knots, I've got a different one I've been working on, black and blue. I usually have to count them a few times to make sure that the knots are right, because I want 33. I'm going to form them together so that it forms a loop, and blues are to blues and blacks are to blacks, and so again, here we are with the same setup procedure. I've got one on one side, one on the next, and I just proceed to do a knot using 4 lengths of knot instead of 2. And so here you see my box that I did, and then I start the process. I go around the fingers, back through, over the thumb here. Then I'm going to be going through the fingers. It's going to be going under 6 knots or 6 cords, right? Because it's doubled. And then I do the other side here. And there's my double knot. Okay, so now my double knot is tied. I again go to the thumb, and I find the one that's connected to the main body. I slip everything off. I put that one back on. I go to the middle finger. I pull that up. I slip everything off, and now I'm going to tighten that knot up. And so in essence, I've got a double knot here. I'm going to cinch it up like I did the other ones. Pull it all the way tight from one end all the way tight to the other end, and then I'm going to start pulling through. And again, this is the exact same as the other ones that we've done. It's just that there's a double knot, and so I pull those through. Again, I'm constantly pushing up against the knot so everything is cinched up nice and tight with each other. When you're all finished, if you want the ring to be looser, you can stretch it out, and I'll show you some that are stretched out. Now I go to the next side. I've got my double loops, and I'm going to just do the 3 pull-throughs like I did with the other. Rotate it, pull it through. Rotate it one more time. Pull it through, and then pull from the excess strings. And there's my double knot right there. And so I'll do 2 more of those. And so when I've done that, I'm going to end up with something that looks like this. And what I want to do is finish it off. Actually, let me get this one, because I'll use black thread. And so I'm going to give myself, about 6 inches or so. I'm going to cut the cord right here. And so what I've got is I've got my excess cord here. I've got the 4 strands coming off here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, can you get that down there? I'm going to tie this on. In this case, I'm going to use the 2 green cords, and I'm just going to make a nice tight knot right here. And what I do to hold the knots together is I use some super glue. And so I'll just use just a little dab of super glue right in there, and then I'll have my fringe running off there. I'm going to use some black thread. This is a waxed thread that I've got that's thicker, and I'm just going to I'm going to tie a knot around here. This is hard to see as far as the contrast. I'm going to wrap it around 3 times. It's called a surgeon's knot. And just make a tight knot there. I'll finish off with like a square knot. I'm going to pull my threads so that they're lined up and they're looking good. Again, just another dab of super glue on that knot, and then I'm going to cut the fringe right at the end so that it's even, right like that. I'll finish by cutting my knots here, and that's my finished thing. So I've got a nice little ring here. I've got my 33 knots. I've got my 3 knots. I've got my fringe at the end. Some people don't want the knots so tight to each other, and so you can do something like this, where you pull on it and you stretch it out, and the knots are going to be a little bit easier to count. And so that's our gratitude rope. Kind of different, kind of interesting, but the point is gratitude. When we express gratitude, we experience joy. When we experience joy, we experience health. Thanks. If you're interested in our videos, if you like them at all, be sure to subscribe and share them with your friends. Thanks.